academic freedom will be threatened by the proposed anti-terrorism law. No doubt
This
about it.
speaker is a graduate of the Institute of Accounts, Business and
My
Finance.
office, together with different volunteer groups,
different parts of the world, and some of them have confirmed their attendance, and they are coming from the Middle East, Asia, Europe, and also in Australia. So, welcome.
Good day, everyone. I hope all of you are doing well and healthy. I am Cholo from the Institute of Tourism and Hotel Management, and I will be the moderator for this session. Thank you for joining me and the Alumni Relations Office of the Far Eastern University for this webinar entitled Navigating Career in the Hospitality and Tourism Industries in the Post-Pandemic Period. I encourage the audience to please comment down below your questions to our speaker later. And to introduce our guest speaker for today, please welcome Sir Selmer Lopez Santos, the Director of the Alumni Relations Office.
Thank you, Cholo. Good afternoon and welcome to the 7th webinar session of our Alumni Speakers Bureau webinar series. Good afternoon as well to those who are watching us via YouTube channel and FB page of FEU Alumni Relations Office. Our speaker for today is an experienced brand and product strategist with a demonstrated history of working in the marketing, advertising, and media industry. He handled most of the world's prestigious brands from FMCG, luxury, blue chip, automotive, telecommunications, health, banking and finance, appliance, hospitality, and tourism. At present, he is the Spain brand and digital strategy head at large of Gray Communications New York. Gray ranks among the world's top advertising and marketing organizations, serving 1/5 of Fortune 500 in 96 countries. Concurrently, he is a global strategic marketing consultant at GuidePoint, New York. GuidePoint is a leading expert network that provides consultation and data services for global companies. Prior to moving to Spain, he spent most of his time in Greater China and Hong Kong, where he serves as the head of strategy of Gray Group Communications, digital and social strategy director of Le Vernay, an American global advertising company and one of the largest agency network in the world, as well as strategy director of Saatchi & Saatchi. Apart from being a global marketing and advertising guru, he is also a passionate chef. He is currently the creative chef of Disfrutar, the 9th best Michelin Guide restaurant in the world. So he is an alumnus of Culinary Institute of Barcelona, which is the 12th best culinary school in the world. He is a loud and proud Tamarao, a graduate of Bachelor of Arts in Mass Communication, cum laude, batch 2006. Our speaker for today, Mr. Sonny Miguel Tan. Good afternoon, Sonny.
Okay, can you see me now? Hi, good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much, Sir Selmer, for that very humbling, I would say, introduction. And it's great to be back in FEU virtually. And hi to everyone, our alumni. And yeah, hi to everyone.
Thank you for that, Sir Sonny. Thank you for introducing. Hi, sir. Thank you for introducing us to Sir Sonny, Sir Selmer, and Sir Sonny. Welcome, and thank you as well for giving us the opportunity to have this talk with you. As I've heard, you're really busy there in Spain, working as a chef in an upscale restaurant, and still doing consultancy, right, with several companies.
Yeah, so I'm basically doing 2 jobs right now, so I'm super busy. So that's why even when I was having a conversation with Sir Selmer, I usually reply super late after a week sometimes. But you know, I love Sir Selmer so much, and I love FEU. Kaya I try my best to reply as soon as possible. But the thing is that, yeah, so I work as a strategist at large for Gray as well as GuidePoint. So basically, it's super busy on the research part right now and strategic part because, you know, we're in a situation that is pandemic and a lot of like huge companies are requiring more expertise from people like us, giving them advices, giving them thoughts on what needs to be done during this kind of situation. But at the same time, as part of my passion, like what Sir Selmer mentioned, I work as a creative chef in one of the world's best Michelin restaurants. So ranked number 9 in the world. Hopefully, we can get number 7 this for this. Well, if it's not this year, next year. But the thing in Spain, it's different from the Philippines because in Spain, life goes on. I don't really even us in the restaurant when we get back because we just got back last month. And when we got back, we were saying like, oh, baka magsara or maybe, alam mo yun. So maybe because it's so expensive for you to be able to dine in a restaurant, the minimum spend is 250 euro. That's the minimum spend. And it can go up to like 600 euro per person. And so when we get back, we thought like, oh, baka walang masyadong client. And then to our surprise, at pagod na pagod kami because every day is still full. It's just like Europeans love their fine dining so much and they have money to spend. So it's just a different world out here. So yeah.
At least the restaurant is doing well. It appears.
So far.
So far, most of our audience would be from the alumni community, and we'll also have probably some of your students. I understand you also had some stint in the academy here in FEU. So
Yes, yeah.
how does it feel being back here, virtually, and being able to communicate again with your students and your co-alumni?
I love being invited over and over because I'm a solid Tamaraw. I'm very proud being a Tamaraw and I always look back being a Tamaraw. So that's why for me to be able to share my knowledge, my experiences is something that I always look forward to. So that's why I thank you and Sir Selmer and everyone in the alumni committee for always inviting me, and yeah, so sharing is really my passion, teaching is my passion, and I look forward in the future that maybe I'll be back in FEU, who knows.
Well, definitely, we'll be eyeing you, sir, from the ITHM.
Okay, thank you. Kaya lang baka magseres yung mga taga-Mascom kasi talaga.
We'll work it out with the dean's poster. Anyways, moving forward, let's traverse back to your journey to success, Sonny. Can you share with us what are your biggest contributions FEU had to your success as an alumnus?
I think it's because like in FEU, I think what's unique because I also taught in other universities in the Philippines. Okay, just a matter of perspectives, right? I think the difference are compared to other universities in the Philippines. So I wouldn't mention them, baka ma-promote pa sila, but so the other universities they're the so-called, the elite universities. So I taught in some of them. But the thing is that in FEU kasi, we are on the verge of, challenges. There are more challenges in FEU compared to the other universities. It's for silver spoon, right? So usually the students there, they come from a more well-off family. And because of that, they're not used to challenges, right? So when you give them challenge, they don't really fight. Wala silang ganong mentality. But para sa mga taga-FEU, we're used to nothing, and some of us might be privileged, but in general, we're used to harmonizing ourselves with different categories of people, from the rich to the well-off to the poor, so we're more used and more diverse. And because of that, we're used to challenges because when the professors give us an assignment, it's one assignment from everyone. It doesn't really matter where you come from. And in that aspect, then the challenges is something that I was able to use from the beginning of my career, because when I started my career, because I'm very ambitious, like most FEU students are. So when I started my career, I started ang target ko talaga always is big company, So ganun ako lagi because I felt like I want to be so I started in Nestle Philippines. I work in advertising companies. And mind you, most of my colleagues, obviously, during that time, I don't know the time right now, but during my time, they always choose those privileged universities, but what they love about me, I always go the extra mile, right? For example, like when I work with Globe Telecoms, right? So when I was working with Globe, yung mga galing sa ibang universities, they don't really, for example, like when you ask them to do something, they will be like, oh, this is so hard, this is like this and that, like that. But me, I really do the hard job, and because of that, you get noticed by the leaders, because at the end of the day, the result is the most important thing. I don't really care where you come from. The result is more important. So I think that's really the training that I have, like rising through the challenges.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing, Sir Sunny. Well, actually, that's one of our defining quality, our core values: fortitude, excellence, and uprightness. Thank you for promoting that as well. Okay, so you've mentioned that you've been in the advertising industry and you've been there for quite some time, and a prominent name, if I may add. But what made you decide to have a change of career?
Okay, that's a very good question. The reason is being because I worked in advertising for, let's say, approximately 15 years. Tagal ko na rin yung graduate, di ba? So, more or less, di ba? So, when I started, so I love advertising. Advertising is my life. I'm a proud masscom student. Alam mo yun? So, masscom talaga ako. But the thing is that I think one of the great things that happened to me, and I was so blessed that in a short span of time, at the age of 27, I became a director of the company. Okay, and that's the reason I was able to rise on the top, and because of that, 27, 28, 29, I become a director of the company. I was working abroad. At the age of 30, I was head of the company already in our department. So the development of my career was super fast. What others might have developed by the age of 45, I achieved it before 30. Okay, so by the age of 30, 31, 32, 33, I started to like, it's all the same, so I felt it's all the same thing. It's not because I get bored about it, but like what I've said, it goes back to the challenges. It's not that I'm not challenged anymore, but I'm looking for new challenges. Okay, and I think that's the essence of life. You keep on learning in different angles of life. So I have my passion. Advertising is definitely my passion, but there's such a thing as a found passion. You find another level of passion, and which is me. Inside of me, I love culinary, because the funny thing, I started my career in advertising because of culinary. Okay, because when I was in third year college in Masscom, third year sa Masscom, McCann Erickson, which is one of the world's biggest advertising company, visited FEU, and they were like, "Okay, we're looking for a host of a cooking show." So I was not interested and said like, I don't want to be part of that." And then they said like, "How about you? Do you want to try?" And then I tried hosting for a cooking show, and they chose me. So surprisingly, so that's the starting point. So I was hosting a cooking show, and at the same time, I was not cooking, but there's Philippine styles. There's a chef and there's a host, and you collaborate, right? So that's what I do. So I learned about culinary, I learned about cooking, and what I didn't know that same time, that same moment, it led me to my career in advertising, and later on in life, it led me to my passion, another passion, which is now being a chef. So it's interesting.
You're actually a living testament that both, passion and career would coincide peacefully and successfully for
Yeah,
that.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. Because I always tell people, always choose a career that you're passionate about. Look, come to think about this, 2 decades of your life or more will be dedicated to working. How miserable you are if you're in a job that you don't really love, or you know what I'm trying to say. So me, like what I've said, I was fortunate and blessed to be in a career where I really really love and I really, really enjoy. Coming into the office is not something that I would feel like, oh, Diyos ko Lord, ayoko na to Lord. So it's not something like that. It's something that I enjoy. But to everyone who's getting into the new venture of getting into a new career, always remember this. The first 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, it's not easy, believe me. It sounded easy to me because I've risen to that top na. But when I was starting the first 2 years, 3 years, it was a crying moment. It's hard. You even question yourself. Like when I was starting my career in advertising, I was questioning myself like, Lord, bakit ko ba itong ginagawa? Ano ba to? Alam mo yun, because it's not easy. But the thing is that in advertising we have a saying: the first part of your career you're underpaid, and the next part of your career you'll be overpaid, and you need to venture. You need to stay on that level. So there you go.
You've mentioned that you were motivated with challenges. Are there any other aspirations that led you to your success?
It's the idea of always proving yourself. Okay, because the reality is that people would judge us, our background, or where we come from, or who we are. So there's a lot of aspects. Like, for example, when I was in China, I always prove myself to be a Filipino. I never fake myself being someone that I'm not, right? When one of the proudest moment is when I was working in Singapore in advertising. I was in a room where I'm having a big meeting, and everyone is a graduate of Princeton University, Oxford, and I'm the only one from the Philippines. So those are the motivations that I have, and these are all true. I'm like that little child that always look into, like, okay, this is where I want to be, and this is who I want to become, something like that.
Moving to your other passion, which is culinary,
Mhm.
I became really curious. Out of all the places, why Spain?
So the thing is that I love dining in fine dining. That's the thing with me. I love Michelin restaurants, and being a director of a company, I love going out to the level of luxury that is that. So when I wanted to be a chef and study in a culinary school, I was choosing between three countries. We're actually four. So Spain, Italy, France, and UK. Okay, those are my top choices. Okay, so originally I was thinking of Italy because I love Italian food. But the problem with Italians is that they love their food so much, they don't innovate. Okay, so they're so proud of their food. It's always Italian, Italian, Italian. And to be honest, I'm good in cooking Italian food, so I don't feel like I'm gonna learn more if I just master the craft of doing Italian culinary. So I was like, okay, out. Not, I don't want to do Italy. Then I applied in, I not applied, I tried to consider Le Cordon Bleu. Le Cordon Bleu is one of the top culinary schools in the world in Paris, France. So, but the thing is that when I inquired in Le Cordon Bleu, the problem, I felt like the French are too proud. That's the thing, and the French are too proud of their cuisine, that I felt like I'm not really interested in too much on culinary traditions of France. So I was like, okay. And then French are very hard, like they're hard level chefs. Like they say a lot about, was like, very Gordon Ramsay-ish. And the thing is that, is it fine? I think it's okay. But the thing is that I'm not young anymore. I'm not 20 years old. So I may not be able to tolerate when someone tells me like, stupid, are you blah, 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 so I will not be able to handle that anymore. A Gordon Ramsay head. So France is not for me. And then UK, I applied in UK, but they didn't, when they replied late. So anyway, what do they have in UK but fish and chips? So then I thought of Barcelona because I've been in Barcelona several times. And Spain is considered, in the gastronomy world, is very famous for what you call modernist cuisine. Okay, so French is nouvelle cuisine. Italian is more in traditions, and then the Spanish, they're more famous for their modernist cuisine. So that's why, and then it's nearest to the taste buds of the Filipinos, the Filipino palate, because there's similarity in cultural traditions, techniques, and that's what I want to know, and to eventually bring that knowledge when I open my business in the Philippines, because that's my plan, is to open my restaurant in the next few years. So yeah.
Sir Sunny, you've mentioned that, I think that was just last week, that the economy of Spain just has started to move forward again, right?
Exactly.
But here in the Philippines, what's happening is we actually went back to a very strict quarantine session.
Exactly. Yeah.
So my question would be regarding to our future about the restaurants here in the Philippines. Definitely, the food
Uh,
and beverage industry is dealing with huge challenges like closure, new opening procedures and policies, and of such. How do you think that COVID-19 might impact the future of food and beverage establishments?
Sure. I think when it comes to this perspective, like what I've said, so I do consultancy globally, right? And so I have all the information and data in terms of understanding what's happening in a global scale, right? Not specific to the Philippines, but of course, we could use this as a benchmark in the Philippines. You are actually, the bad news is this. The bad news is that you're looking at a 2 years average for us to be able to recover globally. So this is not just about Philippines, this is not just about Spain, this is United States as well, this is the entire world, because this pandemic is global, and it's measured that in the next 2 years, after 2 years, that's the time that we can be able to recover. Okay, and I think we need to find ways and be more innovative individually, particularly people like us who are in the hospitality tourism industry, and that is something that if you notice, like in the Philippines, right, there's a lot of like houses, yung mga sa bahay lang, they're trying to innovate by, cooking something, coming up with something. You can also look at that, some innovation in terms of food, like humble food, like for example, pandesal, right? There's a lot of this ubi pandesal now, okay, so pandesal, dulce de leche and stuff like that. So this is a global trend. Okay, so when it comes to global trend, what people need to understand in this level is that how do we rise up to that level of the global trend? So if everyone is coming up with a house level innovation, which is now cooking at home, selling that, I think for all the FEU grads and then the students that we have, this is a very good opportunity for us to consider to coming up with new innovations. We can work on different packaging, exploring different parts of traditions that we have. So, so these are the things that we need to be exploring, and we shouldn't be stuck in the idea that, oh, because it's global and it's pandemic and the situation in the Philippines is very bad, we just wait. Waiting in vain is bad, because if you keep on waiting, nothing will happen. So rather than wasting people's time on Facebook commenting on the government's issue, try to start thinking on what needs to be done next. Maybe there's something about your mom's barbecue. Who knows, diba? People can always come up with a different plan. For example, like I'm not sure if people are particular with kombucha. Kombucha is like fermented tea. So I have a friend who's basically from Davao coming up with kombucha. So something, those kind of thing, or so there's a lot of things that you guys can on the tourism business, for example. That's even harder industry, because on the food level, food and beverage, people need to eat.
Yes.
But traveling is another issue, right? But you also need to consider that what can be done, in terms of a travel perspective. Example, like, Airbnb before, right? Airbnb, when it was created, there's basically, like, I think 2 guys or 3 guys that said, like, oh, we have a vacant room and maybe we could rent it out. And then voila, it became a big hit, So maybe try to push yourself in thinking into something to that level. Right. And yeah, I have actually a lot of ideas, but of course, you guys think your own.
That's very true, sir. Thank you for pointing out that even though there's a pandemic, and even though the people are stuck at home, you continue to learn and innovate your products, possibly, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is that I just don't like the idea of. So one of the things that I don't like is mediocrity. Okay. If you're being mediocre because you think that this is the only thing that you can do, then nothing will really happen to you, right? If you wouldn't be a speaker at this moment if you were mediocre, okay? That's what I want to impart to our students and our alumni. But at the same time, if you have the passion and you think that you can do something out of that passion, try to think a little bit further. And if you think that is what you're thinking is not good enough, think a little bit more, and you'll get ahead of everything. Yeah.
It's nice that you have mentioned the other side of the industry, which is a travel and tours. In the middle of those industries, there's actually an event. there's actually a sector of those industries that is really facing a hard challenge. That
Yeah.
would be the events management. I'm
True.
talking about social events such as debuts, weddings, birthdays, corporate events as well, like corporate meeting, conferences, and in
Mhm.
um, usual large gatherings. This is due to the physical distancing that is currently being implemented in places, right? So, what's your point
Yeah.
of view on this? On the talking about events management.
Okay, so when it comes to event management, because of the issue of distancing and social distancing and the likes of it, right now, of course, in the Philippine setting, like what I've said, it's different globally. In the Philippine setting, there's more demand to do it virtually. So, for example, I have a friend right now who's doing an online wedding because I'm connected to a friend who does events and stuff like that. And they do online weddings. And I think what's interesting about that is that they send out what you call this? Ano ba yung tawag doon? Yung the things that to send when there's a wedding or something or a debut or something. So these are more devices that they can engage even if they're doing the wedding virtually. I have a friend who's doing an online wedding. He has not launched it yet, but he's doing an online virtual kind of wedding venue. I know it's not the most ideal, but sometimes you just need to. So, look, if you think that these kinds of things are not the most ideal because it's awkward, then come up with something else better. So that's the thing. And always, if I can give you a piece of advice on a strategic standpoint, always come up with an idea of something that is not rooted in human nature. Okay, it's not human nature to have a wedding online. Okay, but that's the only thing we can do right now. How do you minimize that and how do you innovate out of that? So think of always, because right now we are actually depriving people of their human nature, going out, socializing, engaging, this kind of thing. So in terms of the event management, how do we change that? How do we minimize the deprivation of that human nature that we have? Yeah.
Thank you. So I hope those who are engaged in the events management learned a thing or two from Sir Sunny here. Moving forward again with our topic, Sir Sunny, I would like to discuss the workforce because currently
Mhm.
I'm seeing three perspectives. One would be the fresh graduates, and the other one would be
Sure.
the workforce that just lost their jobs during the pandemic, and actually the future of our workforce. That would be the students currently still taking their degrees in tourism and HRM. So, what future could they expect? Let's start first with the fresh graduates. So we have received some questions, concerns actually, that they might be experiencing or we might be experiencing a surplus of workforce after the pandemic. What's your take on that?
The truth is good news and bad news. Okay, so the bad news is that yes, it might be very hard for the generation right now, particularly the graduating ones or those who have just graduated, because the thing is that you need to understand people are losing jobs. I'm sure you know that. You don't have experience yet. You're yet to build your career, and then when situations comes back, you will be competing with everyone. So that's the hard part. So you'll be competing with people who have more experience, but even them themselves, they cannot really find an opportunity. So that's the not so good news. The good news though is that it will always bounce back.
Mhm.
But then again, so things will always get back to normal. Things will always normalize. That's like what I've said. There's human nature and there's just nature in general. That's the nature of the world. We always get back to normalizing things, and that's the objective, right? And the thing here is that while we're trying to look for opportunity, we also need to enrich ourselves. Okay, so that's the important part here. In preparation, when things get normalizes, okay, when things get back into normal situation, right? So let's say, for example, you are a graduate of human resources like hospitality and management and tourism, or culinary, maybe perhaps. So maybe you can volunteer at this time of situation, if you can afford to volunteer in different businesses or establishment in the meantime, to just gain experience and credential. That will help you. At the same time, maybe like what I've said, going back to what I mentioned, you can create opportunity for yourself. You can create a small business on your place, and that kind of thing. So those are for the graduating. This is encompassing from those who are students, those who are still students. Good thing if you're graduating in the next 2 years, okay, or even after a year. Hopefully there's a vaccine and there's an opportunity for you, but still there's a lot of challenges, because like what I've said, other people are also looking for a job. But then again, create an opportunity to enrich yourselves, and opportunity in terms of creating something for you.
Thank you for that. Again, we're leaning towards continuous learning and improving your skills and your competencies. I think that's what you wanted to point out. I think it
Yeah,
would
basically.
also, yes.
Yeah, basically, because the thing is that if we are in a situation where we're very limited.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because for example, in my case, I was working in this frutar in the restaurant, and I thought they wouldn't call me back to work there, but when after the restaurant opened, they called me back again to work in the restaurant. So there you go. So because it's my experience, maybe because of your background, so you need to enrich yourself, improve yourself. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And I think that would also go as well for our alumni community that have lost their livelihood and their job. And last
Yeah.
perspective for the workforce is the future of our workforce, which is the students that are still currently studying. Sila siguro sir yung mga nasa second year and first year. And also let's take in mind those who are in the senior high school, which would
Okay.
be interested in taking up courses or programs that are related to tourism and hospitality. So what's your point on that? What's your take on that rather?
My point on that is that don't change whatever your ambition is, and don't change whatever your passion is, because life must go on. You don't change something simply because something doesn't work right? Like what I've said, you need to make things work right? So for example, in my case, once upon a time, I started my career in advertising. I had a hard time on the first 3 years. I thought of just changing my career because it was hard, but dude, come on, don't change your career simply because things are not on the right fit, and that's what you need to do. So if kung gusto mo maging chef, gusto mo magtrabaho sa hotel, gusto mo maging flight steward or anything, di ba? So you need to stay focused. Focus is very important in every aspect. Okay, particularly when you're young. The problem with young people is they lack focus. Okay, and that what I had have I that's a thing that I have had when I was young. I know what I want clearly. So I said to myself, I want to be a mass comm student. I want to be working in the media industry. So that's important. Focus, right? So if this is really something that you want to do, focus on it, and don't change it simply because ay siguro nursing na lang ako kasi parang baka alam mo yon, baka mas okay doon, mas may trabaho, mas stable kasi sila ngayon yung mga health frontliners, di ba? So kaya lang mas in demand sila ngayon, but at the same time higher yung risk naman nila, di ba? So gusto mo rin ba yon? So yeah, so it works like that. So stay focused in what you want to do. So yeah.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying that, Sir Sunny. Well, let's move on naman, sir, sa what can our educational institutions do to help recover?
I think because my understanding is more an FU in terms of teaching the next generation.
Yes.
Okay, so I think in that I think it should be because because when I was doing my understanding of of course I checked the website of ITHM, and I noticed that majority of the information there is geared towards being employed.
Mhm.
Okay, I think as educators, we should be having a part of the curriculum being individually innovating on different aspects, ourselves and businesses, right? Because the things that we are in a situation that is tougher right now. The situation is more competitive, it's tougher. Every year, there are more graduates coming out of universities. But if the mindset is always for them to be able to get a job, like most of you students, I want to be this, I want to be that, there's a certain moment that you want to be employed, but at a certain moment as well that you want to have your own business or capability. And that's the reason why I shifted to my career, because I cannot be working in advertising. I cannot be Charo Santos. So it's just a matter of time. Always remember that. Put that in your head. It's a matter of time. I know that because this is what I have experienced in my career. Okay. So likewise, for the newly graduates, the university, for example, we should be able to come up with a plan or a curriculum that creates a second plan for those students or the graduates of what else they can do innovatively. Okay, and that's where we should be known more. That how do we come up? Because, for example, me studying in Spain, Spain is about it's the focus of my school is culinary innovation really, and I'm doing my postgraduate on food and beverage executive management, and the focus is not just about coming up with products, but for example, I'll give you a perfect example. In Spain, there's one of our alumni that created a new product that is called imperfections, and I love the concept so much. And what is this imperfections? Because in Europe, every time they create a produce, tomatoes, carrots, fruits, or whatever, it needs to be it needs to look perfect for it to be able to go to the market.
Yes.
Right? A mango needs to look like a mango. So hindi pwede yung kambal na mango, hindi pwede yung kambal na carrots. It's a bad standard yon because it needs to look perfectly like a carrot. It needs to look perfectly like the vegetable that it should be, right? But this company, Imperfections, I love them so much because they said they created a proposition that even imperfect vegetables are lovable. You can love those perfect imperfect vegetables. You can make them like soup and stuff like that. So they make this vegetable more affordable. They make this vegetable cheaper and more approachable to the market. And they created different products out of this imperfect produce. And that is something that we should be teaching our students or alumni and as part of the entire curriculum. So yes, innovations is something that we could lead on. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm reading here a question coming from the audience. Let me just read it to you, Sir Sunny. Hi, sir.
Sure.
I'm an educator and has a business under live events. Our aim is not to have profit, but to survive. Can you share tips on how the events industry thrive amidst the pandemic? Contrast, content, marketing direction. We know this too shall pass, and as Tamaraos, we are trained to be resilient. Can you share tips on how the events industry thrive amidst the pandemic? Is looking
How
for contrast content and marketing
Yeah,
tips.
so I think I mentioned it a while ago about, like trying to come up with because event management, right? So when it comes to event management, it's like 80% you need to be physical about it, right? You need to be on the ground, right? But the thing is that with given the situation right now, like what I've said, there's a lot of like event companies that coming up with online contents. Like for example, virtual venues is one of them. A lot of them coming up with different websites where you can actually put a lot of contents in terms of just gathering people. Because in the Philippines right now, I noticed that there's a lot of this online chat conversations, sharing information. So it's like if you're familiar with WeWork, so WeWork is a place where all the bright minds come in, different careers, they just share things. You could come up with something like that on the events management. Yeah, so virtual is the way to go right now, and And I think you could come up, because in Spain, for example, we come up with different gathering parties, very limited numbers. So maybe, I don't know, in the Philippines, maybe it's not allowed, but maybe you can coming up from that basic idea. Maybe you can expand onto that.
Thank you for your point, Sir Sunny. During this
Okay.
whole ordeal, Sir Sunny, what are your learnings about this pandemic?
Yeah, so the learning is that minimize your negativity, try to read more important things, try to be more inspiring. I tend to be kinder right now because who knows if the world might end next year. So but yeah, so those are some of my personal perspectives.
Do you have any advice on how travel agencies could market once they are able to conduct tours again?
I think in terms of marketing on traveling tours,
Yeah.
I think try to focus on the audience or your target market that can easily access or afford to go out of the country, or even in the Philippines if they easily travel. So you need to identify who are these people, focus your marketing on those people, and then try to focus as well on destinations or activities where they can easily access it. So it's not really good to market to everyone at this very moment. You have a very niche market right now. Only those who can afford, those privileged, because these are the ones that more likely will be engaged in your business. Otherwise, if you try to market to everyone and hopefully someone will pick it up, then you're wasting your marketing efforts. So this is the time that you need to be strategic, focused in terms of marketing.
Okay, so thank you for that. So we, for our travel agency partners or our friends from the travel agencies, they need to market on those specific niche that can actually travel.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Maybe they're OFWs, for example, like OFWs that not the worker class, but I mean like the expat level class, for example. So those kinds of things, or for example, like a certain location in like for example, those who are more affluent or more privileged Filipinos that the pandemic is the least of their issue. Okay. And then maybe you can also consider CSR programs, like that's a good opportunity as well. Like, for example, like if you fly with us, if you travel with us, we will donate a certain portion. Those tricks work always. And keep as this very moment, keep your presence felt, because loss of sight, loss of mind, right? So pag hindi ka na nila nakikita, hindi ka nila matatandaan. So do a little bit of something here and there just to keep your audience. May ganito pa palang travel agency. Okay, may ganito pa palang activity. So yeah.
Thank you for giving that point, Sir Sonny, that TSR also works. That is true.
Yeah, and then collaboration as well. I think this is the time where all travel industries and hospitality businesses should, like collaborate and, help each other in terms of coming up with promotions.
So another question from our audience, Sir Sunny, says here, do you find it helpful to give low prices of packages this pandemic, which are to be availed come 2021?
Well, when it comes to business, it's always about the numbers, right? So it's okay to offer low packages, but then again, you should have a target number. Otherwise, you're not offering. If I were the business owner, I wouldn't be offering low packages simply because I just want to offer it. Unless, of course, you're very generous and you want it free, right? But the thing is that, like what I've said, you can offer low packages, but create a program around it. Why? What's the purpose? If the purpose of the low packages is just to keep you felt by the market, then okay, that's fine. But if business is about numbers, then how much of these low packages, how many of these low packages can you sell for you to able to get the return of investment? And from there, how much of promotions can you afford to let go simply because you want to promote more? So you need to create a program around it. This is not just about offering low packages. This is about numbers, because at the end of the day, it's about business. Guys, if I may share, one of the things I learned working abroad is that the reason why developed nations become developed nations is because they don't think like Filipinos. Filipinos, we always think like helping and helping and helping, and that's fine. But you always need to balance helping and numbers. Okay, so
keep track of the numbers, even if you're offering low prices.
yeah, so once you reach your target and your numbers, then start helping. But you cannot help when you don't have anything to help them with.
Help yourselves first.
True.
Another question just coming from our audience. Do you have any tips on how small businesses can survive during this pandemic who don't have much means?
Well, the things that we should have means, we need to be starting off with something. Remember the keyword. You need to be starting off with something. It could be a bright idea. That's free. You just need to think harder if you want to, right? Maybe there's something in your kitchen that you can use out of that idea. So idea, like in advertising, we say idea is a new global currency, right? Because once you have your idea, you don't need to spend much, right? You just need to look at your kitchen, look at the places that you have, look at the space that you have. Maybe you can have something out of that. So if that is when you don't have enough means. But of course, when you have a little bit of something, then you can also come up with something out of that. So there you go. The more limited that you have, the bigger your idea should be. And that should be the balance.
Thank you for sharing, Sir Sonny. So coming from your ideas, which doesn't really actually cost a lot, so that would really help small businesses. My last question for Sir Sonny, I'll be asking this one to you. What would you want our audience to take away from our talk? Because you've mentioned a lot of things like getting the right market or the niche, continuous learning, advancing your competencies. But for you, if there's one thing that you would impart to our audience,
I think bottom line, stay positive.
that is true.
Positive and opportunity. Those are the two keywords that I would impart, because if you are positive, then you have more focus on creating opportunity for you, for the people around you, and basically to the community. And in general, hopefully it will help the Philippines bounce back to the new normal, So there you go.
And with all the help we could get is a big thing. Thank you for reminding us that, sir.
Yeah, and don't expect help from the outsiders, Yeah. So the thing is that the only way for us to go and move forward is if we look inside ourselves and and stay positive and look for opportunity, like what I've said.
Thank you, Sir Sonny. But before we stop the question and answer portion, actually I was able to contact one of your students before.
Talaga? Sino yan?
Yes. He requested to be anonymous, but he actually sent me a fast talk. So are you familiar with that, sir?
Okay, sige.
So you have to choose between two words or two things. First, breakfast or dinner?
Dinner.
Dinner. Left or right-handed?
Right.
Right-handed. Sneakers, leather?
Leather.
Spain or China?
China.
Advertising.
I know everyone will hate me for this, but China.
It's your preference, sir. Advertising or culinary?
Pwedeng both.
It's okay. It's your choice, Sir Sonny.
Yeah, but if I need to choose one, advertising, of course.
Anyways, thank you, Sir Sonny, for sharing your time and your very meaningful thoughts with us. And thank you to the Alumni Relations Office for organizing this session for our alumni and, of course, for the rest of our audience. This talk definitely made an impact to me and hopefully to everyone who was able to witness our talk, Sir Sonny, and gave us a new perspective on what to expect and how to cope with the current situation we are facing right now. This talk has expanded my views on how other communities are also doing, not just here in the Philippines, but also the point of view of European countries such as Spain, as you have mentioned, that life goes on.
Mm-hmm. And thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much to Sir Cholo, to Sir Selmer, to Eric, to everyone who organized it, and everyone in the alumni community. Yeah, thank you so much sa mga students natin. Hi, Tamaraws.
this was definitely a big opportunity for us to learn a thing or two from you, both culinary-wise and advertising at the same time. So very helpful, sir. Sir Sonny, keep safe always.
Thank you
And
so much.
hoping for better days to come.
Thank you. Thank you as well.